Hello, it's Emma Jo here from Lavinia Stamps, and in this video, which is Lavinia Tours 9 Part 2, I'm going to be showing you how we put everything we did in Part 1 together to create this. And let me show you. So this is why it's called pumpkin soup. Oh, which way am I going to go? Pumpkin soup, okay? So you can see there's Willow the Witch at her soup kitchen, yeah? And that tells you the name of it. And then you can see here the trick behind the spoons. So you can see the spoons have got pumpkins all over them because it's pumpkin soup, isn't it? Of course it is. But they're hiding the text of the story, okay? It does make sense, honest Gov. Right. I'm not going to chat about this anymore. Come on, let's go and have a go. Let me show you how it's done. So we start, my friends, with spoon templates. What are we doing? We're drawing around them again. I know, but you know why now, don't you? It's so that we can colour around them. Okay, so we draw around them, and now we apply the background colour. Now, a lot of this will be covered, but you know sometimes it's nice. That was Elements Ink Sundance and a size 9 stencil brush. Sorry. Sometimes it's nice to have a colour there. So if something lifts, it's not that obvious. There is method in my madness, my friends. Okay, so we're going around the spoon template shape and just applying colour roughly over the page, okay? Now, with the spoons, I'm only going to show you on one spoon really, but with the spoons, if you just try and do a little bit darker at the top before the bowl on the left and then underneath on the right. Patterned patches. So remember those B7 coloured cards that we prepared in part 1? Take those out and we are going to turn these into squares. So I've measured these, and using my craft mat, I've worked out that I want them to be 3 by 3 squares. So use your craft mat as a guide and just mark them off into squares. There you go. And once you've got them sorted, cut them down. Don't get rid of those edges because you never know, we might use them. But we'll see. So that's the 6 coloured backgrounds we made. And as you can see, this is me measuring them until suddenly, lo, we have all of these. So we're going to stamp these patches using a limited palette and lots of lovely nature-inspired stamps. So this is from the Harmony set, and we're using the word nature, and we're stamping it in VersaFine Clair Pinecone, just all over the place. You can have a word hanging off the end. Do what feels natural to you. Okay. So I've got the butterfly stamp, and I've done this on 2 squares, and I'm using VersaFine Clair Pinecone, and I've just not filled the whole patch so that you can't tell what it is. I've given them this feeling of movement. So you can see, sorry, that was 3 squares. I fibbed. This is the Vine Set stamp, and that's the flower that we were using before, and we're stamping that in VersaFine Clair Pinecone. So I'm doing 1st generation and 2nd generation stamping there. And I'm doing the same thing, but this time with VersaFine Clair Warm Breeze. Fab. So that was two of those. And then that was Brodwin and Malin stamp. I did the flying bird. And then these are the bird stamp. Again, don't cover the whole place, just give it this feeling of movement. And from the flower pot stamp, I'm using one of the leaves, and that's in Versifying Clair Warm Breeze. I'm doing the same again, but this time with Pinecone, Versifying Clair Pinecone ink. It just reminds me of a time of Laura Ashley prints and Liberty and cloth kits. I don't know if anybody remembers cloth kits. So this is Versifying Clair Pinecone, again from the Flower Pot stamps, using the leaves, and just creating a pattern. And now this is from the Vine set, and again a larger leaf this time, and this is in Versifying Clair Warm Breeze. So I'm going to reverse that now. So that same stamp, but this time in Versifying Clair Pinecone, and then the smaller leaf from the Flower Pots in Versifying Clair Warm Breeze. So this is from the Equal Pumpkin stamp set, Versifying Clair Warm Breeze. And again, no overlapping, just a whole load of pumpkin face. And this one is the same stamp again, but this time in Versifying Clair Pinecone. Fab. And now you can see that's the sort of thing we're going to be doing. I'm just placing them, that's not exactly where they're going. This is where we work it out in patch placement. So you can see I've got my pumpkin lodge, and I've worked out that actually I don't need any stamps in the bottom left-hand corner. Not stamps, patches. So this is what I'd like you to do, really, is pop your pumpkin lodge down and work out where you want your patches to go, because it is also about what patterns you want next to each other, what colours you want next to each other. And if you just work out that you have more of an inkling, you work out your process, the next stage is easier. So you can see there's obviously a part where I am only going to need a triangle. So I have cut one of my squares across to give me a triangle. And I'm going to do that to another one as well. No, I'm not. Ignore me. That I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn another 2 squares into 4 rectangles. And this is because I want them to go across the top. So with a little bit of bippity-boppity glue, glue them down. And remember that if you need to make sure it sticks, just add something like an ink pad. You'll probably see me do that in a minute. Add something to weigh it down. Once this is done, it starts to remind me of, an old patchwork quilt. Now don't stress, because once you put your other things on, like your sign and the pumpkin lodge and Willow the chef, you might not see every single detail on these stamps. But they're there, and they're a lovely background. There you go, see? Weighting it down with an ink pad. And just slowly build up your patchwork. So I've done my half rectangles and a full set of squares. I'm just making sure that every bit of them is done. Now I've put my pumpkin soup sign in place, and I know that I don't really need a square there. So that's why you've got a gap. Can you see? Super. I didn't realise I'd done that. Sorry. Sorry about the pun. Okay, so we're leaving that gap next to the green one, and we're going to the bottom there with our pumpkins. And then because we know that that's where that's going to go, we're going to stick that down right now. Doesn't that look fab? I love it. Seeing things come together really makes me grin. Now, you see that little triangle? That's why we made those triangles. So we're just going to fill that gap with that triangle. And what else do we need? We need something on the left there. So we'll put a square there, and then the pumpkin lodge can go down. Decide what colours you want behind. I thought green worked best against the orange, so that's why we've got another green bit there. Gives a nice frame with green on either side. So we're going to stick Willow the Witch right over that flying owl. I'm sorry to say, but we know it's there. So now we're going to add some definition with shadow. So I'm imagining this will be, yep, our Kuritake clean colour real brush pens, dark grey. And I'm just going around the outside of that sign to make it pop. Doesn't have to be all the way around the outside, just at the bottom really. She says as she goes slowly up the top. Just filling in those little bits to make it stand out. Fab, can see it better already. A little bit under our witch and a little bit by our pumpkin lodge to separate it from its background. So I'm doing another set of triangles. So I obviously had a patch left over. I've sorted it into triangles, and I'm adding a bit of bibbidi-bobbidi glue. And thank goodness for that, bringing the page over. Okay, so it goes in the bottom right-hand corner. And this helps tie in all that mad pumpkin patch fun on the left-hand side with this quiet, serene page here. It will look a little more busy, but not quite yet. So now for the pumpkin soup. Now, if I had my time over, I would be doing these pumpkins on some DL card. So if you want to do that, now is the time. But I have, again, patched it. It works exactly the same way. And also allows us a bit of a bend, so it can't be all bad. There we go. So now those spoons are backed with our pumpkins. What are we going to do? So you see, there they are. Hurrah! I saw them, but obviously you didn't. There we go. So I'm making them bend at the top so that when I glue them, I'll be able to lift them. Edge details. So I have got here another stamp, and it is the Playful Pumpkin stamp, and I am stamping it in Versifying Claire Nocturne and adding next to it the Wild Vines stamp in Versifying Claire Warm Breeze, and it's lovely. This we're going to use just to run along the bottom of this page, and it will filter over into the bottom of the spoon page. We'll call it the spoon page. Now, if you want to mask your pumpkin while you're stamping there, just use a piece of card to block it and to make sure you don't get it covered. So I've put some of the wild vines by either side of the spoons. Yellow and blue and white. So classic. Lovely. And I've popped it along the top as well. There we go. Now the next question is, what are we doing? We're doing bippity-boppity glue on the ends and getting our spoons into position. And I'm using those tiny, teeny little bulldog clips that you can find just to hold them in place. I find them really useful for when I'm gluing things, so I can keep them there until the glue has set and still continue working, which is fab. Now I'm ripping my mice so that they are a smaller shape, and I'm trying to work out where I want them to go. Now I don't want them to overtake this page, but I still want them there, so I'm popping them at the very bottom with a little bit of bibbidi-bobbidi glue. So let's colour our pumpkin in. I've used a bit of coral, Posca pen coral pink, and a little bit of Posca pen yellow. And a little bit of Posca pen red. We don't want it to be too in your face, but we do want it to lift a little bit from the brown. So I'm using my paintbrush just to spread some joy of that yellow without being too solidly acrylic. So in a watercolour manner. I'm adding it with highlights as well round the eye sockets of our playful pumpkin. Putting some glittery orange Posca pen. Just remembering where our sun is coming from. There's a lot more yellow on the left-hand side. And there we go with the white. Super. So I'm just using that brush to blend what I'm putting in place. And I've decided I'm going to give my pumpkin a couple of dots in his eyes just to be googly. So add some dots in the darker places just to add a touch of magic. You know, especially in that shadow, if you break it up with some white dots, the shadow doesn't stop being as important. If anything, it just makes it look less harsh and more magical. Okay, so now you can see that I've got some glittery orange Posca pen, and I've put it on my craft mat, and then I've added it to my paintbrush and put it onto some of the spoons, because I don't believe those spoons would be absolutely spotless. And I'm adding some of that lovely colour to the edge of where I've got the spoon template. Okay, so there's more of that orange going on there. So you see, I literally am smudging it in with my finger, and it's quite effective against that yellow Sundance. Not too dark, but just enough. Fab. So we do that to all three, adding some soup blemishes to the spoons and some outline to the templates, because the next thing we're going to do at some point is add our text in those white spaces. So that's 3 soup spoons. Hurrah! The story continues, ... What are we saying today? Well, you can see I've obviously worked it out using a black Posca pen. I'm doing my very clear, I try to do very clear printed writing, perhaps making my L's and my D's and things like that a little bit taller. And this says, Tilly was very cold after her dip under water. So the fairies took them to Willow's soup kitchen. And now we're just going to add extra embellishments to those letters with dots here and there on the end of the strokes of the letters. Four. So they've gone to Willow's soup kitchen for a warm bowl of her magical pumpkin soup. Hurrah! There we go. Now, the third one, I will tell you here. Tilly was very cold after her dip underwater, so the fairies took her to Willow's soup kitchen for a warm bowl of her magical pumpkin soup. The friends ate it all up using big spoons. It was yummy. Now we got little extras. So I'm just going to write yum, because it was yummy. And the other one has, yeah, he's saying nom nom, as in yum yum. And now we're adding some light green Posca pen to the vine, the wild vine's leaves. And that's the apple green. And that just helps tie it all in to the colours of our patchwork. And it doesn't have to be all of it, but just little touches of that green bring it all back to the theme that we had. So add a little bit of, with a stencil brush size 3, Elements Ink henna to the very edges of our pages. And that gives a lovely frame. And also in the crease. If you darken the crease, it won't be as obvious if you've maybe got a bit that hasn't quite stuck down or is lifting. And also add a little bit of shadow around our ripped edges, because that, as well as the shadow that we did with the Kuretake brush pens, that will bring them to the foreground, which is where we want them. And there you go, my friends. You did it. Well done. Well, goodness me, this was full of autumnal seasonal colours. Pumpkin, orange, greens, browns, coppers. Yeah, love it. But don't forget we had our mice in there as well with their wings, and Tilly, who obviously was really suffering from a bit of a chill, having had a dunk in the last couple of pages because she went underwater, didn't she? So, you know, for her to have a bit of pumpkin soup to warm her up, I thought was just the job, just what the doctor ordered. Right. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Thank you very much for coming along with me today. If you've got any questions you'd like to ask about this craft, please do pop them in the post below, and I will do my best to get back in touch with you as soon as I can. But in the meantime, happy crafting, and I'll see you soon. We've only got 3 more. You've got 10, 11 and 12 of the Lavinia tours, and then we will have done a whole year making this together. Fabulous fun. Anyway, enough from me. You take care. Happy crafting. See you. Bye.